Hey, how you guys doing? This is gonna be the second video on setting up the Matrix switch. This is gonna be the software side, a general briefing on it. I won't go into too much depth of it. Just a general idea of how to set it up and get it to work software-wise. So, bump the mic. As you can see, this is the face that I am using, and there's a reason why I'm setting it up this way, as you'll see. I love the way that I love the way I'm trying to set this up, which basically means it's going to be fully customizable. And if you need me to make a full breakdown on every little detail, I will. But basically, you have your main page here. So you have your selective inputs, what you want. So Roku 1, Roku 2, or a PC. You have a status here of what it is doing. So when I go to click Roku 2 or Roku 1, switching to Roku 1, if it works, says connected. And if you check on here, this is the actual Matrix backend where you can configure it, so you can see it shows that 1-to-1 is connected. So same thing if you switch over to PC, it'll work. So what this is here though is basically a remote for the Roku, but it's dynamic. So whenever you switch inputs, and this is what I love about how I set this up, whenever you switch inputs from Roku 1 or Roku 2, this remote will work for the Roku you selected. So you can dynamically change and have control over whatever Roku you're selecting, because Rokus allow you to send key presses over the network through their backend API. So it works amazing and it's very responsive. I haven't had a problem with it. There's some more keys that should be added. I just added some general ones for testing, but they're very, very simple to do. So if I go in and edit this page, edit that, show code. This is basically the breakdown of how all that works. I am using the bubble card separators to make it look a little bit nicer. And then it's just one vertical stack. I am using the custom layout card. It's a Hacks add-in. It makes it where these stretch over the full screen, looks better. So the masonry version of this basically keeps everything set in the center. It's set to basically use the full size. So if you go back to this, it's layout cards, masonry layout. So then you have your first horizontal stack, which is these buttons. All of these are input Boolean buttons. I'll show you how those are set. The next is you have a separator, which is here. So you have your buttons, a separator, and then you have a markdown. This is one that took me a while. Actually, I had to use a lot of this was help with ChatGPT because, well, it's pretty complicated for me at least to start it. So you have a markdown card here, and it's getting its content piped in through Node-RED. All of this is set up in Node-RED. So basically this is taking and displaying the text of an input text. So this is the master matrix status. So basically this is for the master bedroom, the status of the matrix. So that allows me to dynamically set through Node-RED, change what it's saying. After that, another separator, and then you have all of the buttons. So they're all just input buttons, master, star, master up, master home, master left, select, just all the buttons you'll need. And these are just a bunch of horizontal stacks. So all contained in a vertical stack, but they're all a horizontal stack. So yeah, that's the general of the overview of how that works. What would be cool is if somebody could design a trackpad to work. So if you configure it to PC, you can actually drag a trackpad around and then maybe switch over and have a keyboard displayed as well. So like a keyboard and trackpad ability, that would be cool. It'd be difficult, but I think it'd be possible. Next is over here in the device and services, you want to go to your helpers, and this is how I have everything set up under helpers. So you have all these input buttons. I just basically make a general helper, so all you have to do is click create a helper button, and then you just name it whatever you want. So then you have your master, up, star, select, all of them, all the different buttons you want. You have the status, which is just a text here. And then you have input booleans. So everything is just either an input boolean or an input text, or an input button. So those are just the ones that we're using. The boolean is so it's basically a switch, so it's on or off. And so if you saw how it automatically dynamically changed on the button, so when I changed it over to this one, it switched over. That's all done in Node-RED. So how it's done in Node-RED, it's a pretty complicated flow. It could be shrunk down under one function block, but this is the flow of everything. The most of this is all the error handling, which is this section. The reason being for that is these have a rule glitchy backend. So general flow of it is you have your 3 buttons for your 3 different inputs that I want to configure Roku 1, Roku 2, Master PC, and then you have the turn-offs for the other buttons. So if this button gets pressed, it turns off the other 2, and vice versa for all of them. So basically the button gets pressed, it takes the incoming payload. So these output your command, which the command is to change it. You have switch-set. You select the output and then the input, if I remember right. So if I go over to this one, or no, it's input 2, then output. That's right. So this is setting input 1 to output 2 to input 1. So as you go down, it does that, and that's all it does. And then next is a function to append a carriage return and a line feed, so -r and -in. And then that goes through. I have it to limit the messages, 1 message per 2 seconds, because this does technically use a RS-232 to control, and then its telnet is basically getting piped into that, so it's a little slow, a little buggy every once in a while. So then limit the messages, and then make sure there's a delay on the messages. So basically it'll slow it because that won't actually slow the messages. And so I want the messages to be controlled on their speed. Just, it's there. It doesn't probably necessarily need to be there, but it's there. And then you get it piped into the matrix. In the matrix, you just set a TCP request node to this IP, which this IP is my IP. So whatever your IP is for your device, and then your port will always be this. There's 2 different telnet ports on this. You have your main control port, which is like the 24 or whatever, and then you have the actual one exposed to everything, which is the 8085, and that's to control the back end. And then I just have that going into a debug here to basically spit out what it's saying. So before we get into the error handling, over here we have, this is for the Roku stuff. So you have up, so as you can see, it is the master up, input button, master up, and then these are all the buttons. And then you have this, which basically just checks, it gets the state of master Roku 1 button, and then it returns the message if it's the first one. So basically that can be eventually dynamically changed where it sets it to a different Roku, and then it's using an action node with the action of remote.send, going to the movie room, which is the name of my Roku. So basically you just add your Roku to that, and then you'll have all of them. So it's movie room, and then this is the actual payload it gets. So it is the entity ID, which is remote.movieroom, so that gives you the remote control, and then we pipe in the payload data, which is saying up, down, left, right, you know, gotta move your feet tonight, that sort of thing. So, and that's basically how the remote works. So it'll only send it if it's on that one, or you can dynamically change it. So I'm not going to get really into the debug stuff here or the error handling, but it's because it's pretty complicated. But in the end, this is the one that sets the markdown to the data. So it sets, that's the entity ID, and it sets it to the payload. Simple as that. Input text set value is the action it does, and then this is just to handle all the errors. So it ended up being a pretty complicated flow to get this working. Like I said, all of this could be basically done under one function. You could make a custom block if you wanted to, but I left this all open so I could redo, adjust as I needed. So it's just easy to see, easy to follow the flow, because it does have some problems. So, and then all I'm doing is setting the payload for going to the markdown is done in functions. So this is how it knows which Roku it's switching to. Does the same thing, gets from Home Assistant the state of each one of those, and then determines to which one to say. So yeah, that is the general on how I actually am getting this to work. I will I'm trying to think of how I want to do it. I'll either open up a GitHub with the copy of this, that, or I'll just do it like a Google Doc or something for now. I'll go ahead and just do it to GitHub to make it easier, and then I will paste this flow into there. So yeah, that'll do it for this video. The next one in the series will be actually installing this and getting it to work. And then there is some more air handling needs done in this. Biggest thing is I need to pull the matrix to make sure that it is thinking that its outputs are correct to what its actual inputs are. Or making sure its set states from inputs to outputs are actually correct from what Home Assistant is doing. That's one major thing that needs done. That's another big thing that needs done. It's difficult. It's going to be a little time consuming, but it'll need to be done so it's actually done properly and works properly. So, and if anyone else finds a way of doing this better, faster, make it work better, feel free to update it, do whatever. I'm just trying to make it available for everyone because, like I said, the Matrix by themselves are dirt cheap at $200 basically, and you can just use them as an HDMI matrix without the other end units, because you saw on the back has the HDMI outputs as well, not just inputs. So you don't need to even do the HD base T receivers. You can just use it as a matrix if you felt like it. So yeah, that'll do it for this video, and I will catch you actually in my new house when we're putting that one in. But see you guys later.